if you want to go ahead and start sharing your screen while I read a little introduction, please feel free. First up, we're going to be offering 2 quick demos of new ArchivesSpace functionality that will be available in a future release of ArchivesSpace. The first demo will be led by ArchivesSpace developer Don Smith. So Don is going to preview the new or coming soon ability to spawn digital objects from archival objects in ArchivesSpace. After, ArchivesSpace front-end developer Brian Zelip will demonstrate the new or coming soon make representative functionality in digital objects. Both of these features were requested by the community, and their development is based on community feedback and specifications. So as a community-supported software, members like you play a vital role in development of the application. Both of these exciting features are available for testing now on our test server, which is test.archivespace.org. I'm not going to say too much more, so I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Don to demo spawning digital objects from archival objects in ArchivesSpace. So Don, take it away.
Okay, am I unmuted here?
We can hear you.
Okay,
yeah.
When I shared the screen, everything went away, so I wasn't
I know
sure,
it gets scary. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh no. Okay, so yeah. Anyway, this is one of many features currently under development and testing that we should see in our next release, which will happen real soon now, I think. So the first thing we need to do for this feature is to enable a preference. Which is an easy thing to forget. I do it all the time when I'm testing this. So there's a new preference you'll see in general settings. It's titled spawn description for digital object instances from linked record. So you want to make sure that's checked and make sure you save your preferences. And from there, you just want to go to a resource or archival object that you want to link a digital object to. So I'm just going to pick a simple test object here. You'll move into edit mode, down to instances, and we will add a digital object. And when you want to create a new one, you click create, and you will notice that some of the fields in the new create digital object modal form will be pre-populated with information from the parent record, or the linked record rather. So this should save people some monotonous copying of fields. You just need to add an ID here, and you can create the new digital object. And yeah, well, that's about it for that feature. 10 minutes is generous for this one. You can do this with resources as well. You can do it with archival objects. And there is a list of fields that are and are not able to be pre-filled in the new digital object instance, and I believe those are in our JIRA somewhere if you have access to that. And I think they actually came from an ArchivesSpace specification document as well. So I'm sure somebody can provide links to those if people are interested in seeing the details there. But yeah, I think that's about it.
Thanks,
sorry, that's about a 1 minute instead of 10, but that's that feature.
Thanks. Well, we already have a question in the Q&A, so I'm sure there'll be some questions about that. So yeah, it is a very simple to do, but there are a couple important differences between this spawning feature and other spawning capabilities within ArchivesSpace. If you notice, Don did have to turn it on as a preference, so that is like he said, I forget to do that all the time too, but it's something that you will need to set as a preference, either as a global preference or a repository preference. And then you'll also notice that he enabled it from the instances section of the record instead of that top level section where normally you can enable spawning. So you do enact it or enable it or do it from a different area of the record than is normal. So it is a little bit different, but it is a huge time saver. So thank you for demoing that, Don. And I'm going to pop over to the Q&A. Yeah. So Bree asks, is there a reason why spawning digital objects requires setting a preference in setting while spawning other records does not?
This is Christine. I could take that if
Yay.
So I'm Christine DeBell. I'm the program manager for ArchivesSpace. And as you said, Reed, this does work differently. One of the reasons is because this is a case where some people wanted this and some people didn't. This was actually this kind of functionality to carry over information from sort of the base record into a digital object that was attached to the record. That was in the original specification for ArchivesSpace and wasn't implemented because there was this divergence of opinion on whether that was a good thing or not a good thing. Those of you who go way back and used Archivist Toolkit may remember that this wasn't automatic in Archivist Toolkit. So that was one of the reasons it was originally in the specification for ArchivesSpace, but there was enough of a difference of opinion that it was decided to not implement that until later on to see what kinds of feedback people had about whether that was a good thing or a bad thing. So now we're 10 years in. There is enough of an opinion that it's a good thing to make this happen for the people that want it. But there were enough people that still didn't want it that we felt that it would work better this way. Also spawning from an accession into another accession or into a resource, or the functionality that we've added now recently to be able to do that, spawn into an Archival object as well. It's really an extra step, completely optional step. If you did that with a digital object instance, it would happen with every single digital object that you did. So we think that this is a good way to balance the needs of people in the community and offer it as a way that people can do this if it's important to their workflow, but not disrupt the workflow of people that don't use ArchivesSpace that way.
Thanks, Christine. And Bree says thanks too. Any other questions about that new functionality? Like Don said, fingers crossed, it'll be in the next release. And of course, there will be documentation in the Help Center about how to use it when it does become available. So that will be there to help you. Someone asks, can we see it? Can we see it in the settings one more time? So Don, could you do another 1 minute demo? Yeah.
Reshare this window here. Okay. Starting from the top, the preference is just in general settings. So this is the preference you need to ensure is set here. Spawned description for digital object instances from linked record. So from there, you'll just pick the record you want to link a digital object instance to. So here's this test one I created. Whoops, I need to go into edit first. Edit instances. So click the add digital object button here, and then you want to create a new one. And this is where you get the fields to fill in and the stuff that's in the record you're linking to. Well, the things that are specified to be pre-populated will be pre-populated. And that's how that works. Oop, I forgot an ID. Yeah. So awesome. There you go.
Thanks, Tom.
Sure.
All right. Any more questions? And we did in the chat, you'll see that we dropped the link for the JIRA issue for this feature. So if you're interested in diving in a little bit more with that, you can do that with that link. Stacy asks, can you specify what fields should pre-populate for digital objects?
So this is something that's in that link in the chat. I can tell you, let's see, the title, expression, date expression, beginning and ending, language, and then the note. There are several note types, well, more than several note types that get translated or just directly moved into the digital object notes that are determined to be the equivalent. And there are some that do not. So I don't want to read through this whole long list of notes, but they're also visible in that JIRA or in the, let's see, did we link to the spec? No, but yeah, so it's basically just, the summary, basic information about title and language, and then a bunch of different note types. Let's see.
Thanks, Don. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I went ahead and reposted that issue. So if you happen to have joined after we posted that link, it's back in the chat now, so you can see that list. All right. Okay, if there are no other questions, and I'm speaking slowly in case anyone is typing furiously, but if there are no other questions, I'll say thank you so much to Don, who is making his forum debut with this demo.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely
Don.
both. It sets a record for the shortest demo I've ever done and also the largest audience. So yeah.
Okay, interesting. Well, cool. Thank you so much, Don. Kara does ask, will this be in 3.4? That is
so.
the hope. Yeah, that is the hope. Yeah, we'll say that. But thanks again, Don. And you are off the hook now, and we will go ahead and move over to Brian. If you're ready, if you want to go ahead and start sharing your screen. And Brian, front-end developer for ArchivesSpace, is going to demo the new Make Representative functionality in ArchivesSpace. So Brian, take it away.
Great. I think you should hear me. Is that right?
We hear you.
Great. Well, hi all. It's good to be with you today from sunny Baltimore, Maryland. And so I'm here in the staff app. I've browsing some resources. Oh, what do you know? Here we see something here. That means this resource has a representative instance that has a representative file version, but that's kind of skipping ahead. Let's take it from the ground up and go to this resource here. And what we'll do, oh no, I'm sorry. I had an ArchivesSpace forum on. Yes, here we go, this one. So here we just have a resource and an archival object, and we've always had these digital object instances, and the Make Representative button. One new thing is you could just toggle it on and off by clicking, which is a big W, a big win. And so let's just first of all see this file, this resource. It's published. I'm gonna hit cancel out of here. And let's see this published page in the public app. And so here, there's no representative file stuff here going on. And when I go down to instances, if we make this representative now and we save, we're used to seeing some things on the public app, sort of in this right-hand side of the main record. I'll just refresh. And now we see the image. That's not exactly new. We've had some ways to add some images before. Let's take a look at the digital objects themselves to see what's going on here. So, sorry, while Zoom is in my way here. I'll just search for unicorn. So here's the digital object that we just were using. And when we look at this record, we can see that we've got a file version. We've got two different file versions. This one is representative. We can toggle it on and off just by clicking it. Also, if we unpublish it, maybe that's how we used to have to do it. We used to have to unpublish it to toggle off. So now when we, if I make this published, which is a requirement for a digital object to be representative, I'll make this representative and hit save. And since this resource already has that instance, linked instance, this unicorn horn as representative. Now, when we go here, this picture should change. And there. So there's a little bit of some representative file versions from the digital object bubbling up into the resource. If we go and make this, now we're back on the parent resource. If I make this instance unrepresentative and save that and go to the child, it's possible for a linked instance that is representative, which has a representative file version, to bubble up to represent the, to show something in the make representative file version area. So I will make this instance representative from the child archival object. I'll save that. And now when we go here, this is a wholly different picture from a child. I'll refresh this, and here, this is now the representative file version image that's coming from an archival object. So if we click here, we also see it too. And since it's the first child of this parent resource that has a representative linked instance that has a representative file version, it bubbles up since the resource itself has no representative linked instance. And so there's that. What's also true is settings are involved here. So when we go here, and if we, for example, browse digital objects, it's possible to turn on this new column thumbnail image. And if I go all the way, I know I have some showing on the last page here. So here's an example of how these thumbnail images, these representative file versions, can bubble up to the search results. And that also happens here in the public app. So let's search for digital material. Let's just go all the way to the end where I assume, yeah. So here, a couple of different things going on here. One is we see the representative file version showing up in the search results. We also see some new breadcrumbs, just for whatever this digital object may be a part of. And so there we have it. So let's just look at the settings. I think I have that open. No, let me get Zoom controls out of my way. Go here, let's go to settings. Oops, not the help button. For example, global settings. This is where I set the settings to show things in the search and browse columns. So if we go to archival object, for example, you can see here in column 6, I've selected thumbnail image. If we go to digital object browse columns, I've also selected the thumbnail image. And so settings also apply to this feature too. And that's just about it. I know we don't have much time, so in case there's any Q&A, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. Yeah, and Christine posted the link to the JIRA issue for this feature in the chat. So that's there if you want to dive in. Oh, yeah. And some people...
let me look at it. Let me look at it here. How do I get there? We go Q&A maybe? No, nothing in Q&A. Nothing in. I don't see anything.
No, nothing in the Q&A yet. But Christine did drop the link to the JIRA feature in the chat. So if anybody's interested in reading that, they can find that there. But nothing in the Q&A yet. But yeah, if you have questions about what you just saw, please pop them in. And there is a question now. So Kara says, does the representative file have to be a certain format, or are those columns setting for the staff UI or PUI? Oh, hold on. There's two questions here. So let's answer one at a time. Does the representative file have to be a certain format?
Yes, in the sense to show on the web, there are certain images that are able to be shown on the web, and there are a whole bunch of other image formats that are not able to be shown on the web. There. Just, I mean, so it's your JPEGs, your GIFs, your SVGs, the common ones that we're used to. So that's true. It does need to be a web insertable image to show up in these places.
Yeah.
So there's that question. This is Slick. Does any representative image info export via EAD? I'll let Christine or Jessica address that question.
So there's attached to that JIRA issue, there's a very long, detailed specification, and credit to Corey Neimer from BYU for being the person to write that specification. And then some of you may recall seeing it circulated throughout the community for commentary. Part of what's in there is the details for how to export this information in EAD 2002 and EAD 3. So it does export. And there is, Brian, just going back, Kara also had a question about what those column settings affect. Is it for the staff UI or the PUI when you go into the preferences there?
That I don't think there are any settings for the public. Are there?
Right. Yeah.
That's a good question.
Staff only.
Does anybody remember that?
It's
Yeah,
staff only.
the settings are for staff only. And so the way it is that the public app shows the stuff by default.
Yeah.
If it's there.
Yeah. Thanks, Brian. All right. We've got a couple other questions in 2 minutes. So I'll just read the questions and we'll get to what we can get to. How does this affect existing digital objects when we update to the new version?
Well, that's a good question. And we're still hashing out from the spec. Some questions weren't answered fully in the spec regarding, sometimes folks, the links that people have for digital objects like images don't necessarily resolve to like a .jpg or a .gif. Sometimes they are just a URL to their institutional repository or something, which then shows an image. So in some cases, we're still working through it to not show a bunch of broken images. But if you're, and Christina and Jessica can talk more about this, and this is ongoing behind the scenes, but if an image is not an actual image URL, then it'll show up sort of as broken. Let me see if I can see anything like that here. Nothing like that here. Let me just do something. This is what is this? Is this yeah. So if we go here, well, we don't have too much time. So the short answer is it's possible that it'll impact images, right? And we're trying to work through more to touch on various use cases.
Thanks, Brian. All right.
And we did add support for the previous way somebody would have shown an image. So if you use that embed Xlink attribute to indicate that an image should be shown, that functionality is still there, that's still supported. And also you may recall that a lot of things, if it wasn't an image, it would show up as a generic icon. So that functionality is there too. But as Brian said, like we're working on trying to get more of the use cases out there supported by those previous ways that things were done so that things won't look broken when they shouldn't look broken.
So we are at time.
Matthew's. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so we're at time.
It's just for still images, yeah.
Yeah, still images. So since we're at time, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and move on. I'll say Christine did put the link to the JIRA issue, so be sure you click on that, read the spec, do testing, provide feedback. That'd be awesome. And then Brian, if maybe you could stay a couple extra minutes and you can type answers to these questions. If you maybe could provide a little bit of information to these questions by typing into the Q&A, and we'll just keep moving on with the forum agenda. But these are great questions, so I want to make sure that they get answered.
Sounds great. Thanks.
All right, perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. Another ArchivesSpace forum debut, I think. All right.